Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and it's such a delight to be here. The morning has been amazing, and we've got to hear such inspiring and lovely stories. Uh, we are going to talk about, how the enlightened modern woman has imbibed the characteristics of the elements earth, fire, wind, and this has been, since time immemorial. So many of the mythologies, whether it's Indian mythology or Greek mythology, they have correlated these elements, earth, wind, fire, and water, to human existence. These elements have their own qualities, orientations, and correlations to one another. And the attributes of these elements are ubiquitous. They are omnipresent and present in everything around us. And they manifest themselves in various ways, in everything actually. In human beings, the variations occur as we grow up and accept societal codes. Wind depicts movement. The woman who embodies wind is dynamic, she's creative, and very artistic and changeable. The woman who embodies fire has a warm and bright personality. She draws people to her and changes their heart. Water depicts acceptance, adjustability, and water adjusts to its container but can be very forceful and unmoving in her integrity and firm in her belief. The earth woman has a very strong vision. We need earth to remain grounded to our community. Without earth, we're like a rootless plant, desperate to find a place to grow. The attributes are present in every woman in some way or the other. It's just that at one stage of life, some of them may be more predominant than at other times. And in fact, it is the society that has categorized these attributes as being masculine or feminine. I'd rather not assign it to the biological gender, but look at the characteristics as being masculine and feminine, because we would like to look at everybody as fellow human beings. And we don't even need to try to prove some characteristics being superior to other. They, in fact, sustain each other, enhance and enrich each other. I am very privileged that talking about women, I would like to begin with the example of my father. My mother was a patient of schizophrenia. She had a very, very prolonged sickness, and it was my father who brought me up. And he was loving, caring, sensitive, and as concerned as any mother would be about every little thing that I did. And these would conventionally be called feminine traits by the society. But the very fact that he had these characteristics made him, be perceived by me as more masculine. And somehow, by a streak of destiny, this triggered down to my life, when my son was challenged with autism. 30 years ago, there was no awareness in the society regarding autism. And I had to play the role of a father for him and do so many things which the society may think of being masculine. But my inspiration was from the Indian mythology, Durga Ma, who vanquishes the demons and is a strong woman and lives in harsh conditions, but has the tender heart of a mother. Every woman has, I think, mastered the art of transforming herself. Just like the chrysalis turns into a butterfly and transforms itself, a woman has mastered the art of learning, the process of learning and unlearning and relearning and going through the metamorphosis over and over again, transforming herself according to the situation and needs, and juggling between various roles in her life. that is the kind of adaptability that every woman has. And we cannot even think to attribute the modern woman as being weak. Regarding me, I was, a young little girl, immersed into my academics when I was young, and then I got married, and then I became a mother. I had to fight all the odds for my child, and then I became a bodybuilder. And of course, after all my achievements, I felt that I should be more of a mentor now. I'm judging the international shows. I'm the only female judge in Southeast Asia in the International Federation of Bodybuilding. And so thank you. And then I thought that, that there I have achieved a certain stature, and I'm giving back in my own way because I write a lot of fitness articles. And what I talk about is not diet, exercise, everybody will tell you that, but how to think, how to live your life as an athlete, and putting my experiences into words so that I can inspire and help athletes, and what to think, what not to think, how to fail, how to enjoy the beauty of failing. And then I thought that I was a Bharatanatyam dancer, which is an Indian classical dance, and I had left it after 25 years ago. I thought that I must complete what I have left because, almost 3 decades I was looking after my child. So I have, been able to pursue that now. And I never cried. I have been through a lot, but I always thought, okay, God, you can give me all the challenges, make me cry, but I'm not going to cry. I'm just going to smile. And so we just learn, being happy is it's not a consequence of our circumstances, but as our actual disposition. I have with me many diamonds here. Every woman is a diamond. A diamond has many facets. Each facet is rare and unique. I thank you all on behalf of my country, because it's the host country, and that you have come down all the way to share your experiences and enrich and enlighten us and tell us more about yourself. So I have with me here Aletha.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aletha Borman. I hold 2 law degrees. I specialize in labor law. I'm currently the head of the Human Resource Department at a very big international mining company, Swakop Uranium. I'm one of the few women that holds these positions because mining is still extremely male-dominated. I'm also an executive council and one of the founding members of the Namibian Women's Lawyers Association. The association was established because we as lawyers have recognized that even though there is a Namibian Lawyers Association, they were not addressing some of the challenges that we as female lawyers were facing, some of which were there's been preferences in terms of which lawyers people tend to go to and references to lawyers, and some silence in terms of how certain professionals were treated in the legal fraternity. So that association was established for that purposes, and I'm one of the executive members of that Namibian Women's Lawyers Association. That's my professional part. I recently moved to HR. I was previously head of legal. I'm now part of HR, and one of my focuses is definitely to develop and focus on women, what us as women need to do to ensure that we get into more executive positions. If you look at the stats for Namibia, for example, only 11% out of 100% of women are in high-level executive positions within Namibia. So there's still a huge improvement that needs to take place to ensure that we as women are equally represented at an exco level. Apart from my professional life, I actually, one of my stories is, when I was 16, my husband and we had our first child, accidentally, I need to add. So I was basically kicked out of school, and my dad had to fight in order for me to go back to school. He had to challenge the legal system because in terms of our legal system, this was 24 years ago, I was not allowed to go back. And I can assure you my dad won that battle. I was allowed to return back to school. I was given all the fancy names that people can come up with. And I passed at the top of my school. I passed at the top of my class for law. I was the best final year law student. So despite everything that happens to you, I don't think stuff like that necessarily negates where you need to be in life. That's my professional life. An interesting, and I admire Miss Iris Davids. I'm actually also a professional bodybuilder. I'm the elite pro, and I'm also the first Namibian to win an international bodybuilding championship, the Arnold Classics. That was 2 years ago. So I'm the first Namibian to actually have done that. I'm also a mommy of 3, together with my youngest daughter that is now almost 24 years old. So my second daughter has also learning disabilities. So that has basically constantly evolved me and not just look at women and try to see how good you are, but there are certain challenges that we as women need to face, not just professionally, but us as mothers, because you now need to be a wife. You are a professional bodybuilder, and all of a sudden you're also, you're a professional person and an athlete. All of these dynamics play and shape who you are. How I translate the elements of earth, fire, and wind in my life is I have looked at a more physical, some of the physical stuff of what earth means to me. And I think what has driven me is that if you look at the element of earth, I believe that the mere fact that you are a woman and the shape of the earth means you are complete. There is nothing negative, there's nothing less about being a woman. I consider the element of earth to represent that we as women, we are complete, just the mere fact that we are women. And even though the earth is complete, there's a lot of facets in the earth itself that defines you. The plates are constantly moving, and these are the things that you experience throughout your life. Earth is not the same that it was 50 years or 100 years ago. And this is how we have, as women, we have evolved with time. Many years ago, there's certain things that were not allowed, but I think we sitting here today, we represent that there is evolution taking place. And this is how I translate to the element of earth. One of the things is obviously also the acceptance of change. Because even though we are complete as earth, as an element, there's many changes in yourself that you cannot control. One being, for example, well, I could have controlled it, but it didn't. The fact that I got pregnant. Those are the things that shape you and that have changed me, but it also have evolved me. And I believe that what has happened to me then has put me in a much better position today compared to others, because I can now go back, and that's one of the things that I do. I go back into schools and tell them that, look here, you hear all these nice things about me as a person, but you don't know the journey that I've been through to enable me to be where I am today. How the fire element resonates with me is I see fire as both as being creation and destructive. How I see it and how it takes form in my life is I have broken and I have burned a lot of the misconceptions that there is with women, that you cannot go back and finish school, that you cannot be a professional bodybuilder or a professional athlete and be a professional in your job and be a mother of 3 kids. So I've burned all of that and I've given shape to something new. So with fire, it's both destruction and I have recreated myself. The last element I think that has shaped me is the element of earth. To me, it's spiritual. And I believe that if we as women are not grounded spiritually in God, I don't think there is a lot of development that you ever, in my opinion, would ever be able to take effect. Because there's many things that have enabled me and God has put me in this position. I mean, look at me. I'm sitting here speaking to how many countries and how many women, and we are sharing experiences today. It's because this plan has been thought through for me long before I even existed. And this is where I believe that because of my spiritual connection, I have been grounded, and I have this connection with God that have enabled me to be where I am today. And these are the same values that I want to teach my children, especially my middle child, that she's constantly facing challenges, being laughed at, being joked at because she can't read. She mixes things up. But I need to establish that she is complete, even though there's things within her that she cannot control. As a woman, she is complete. And this is how I see these three elements in my life. Thank you. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fidos Asmal. I was born and raised in South Africa, in the heart of apartheid. Now, during those days, for anybody of color, the future seemed quite bleak. I remember many days where I wasn't allowed to go to school because of the turmoil, because of this disruption that was going on. And for my own safety, my parents kept me at home. But then, on my 12th birthday, on the 11th of February, 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And all of a sudden, my future went from being very bleak to being possible. Anything was possible. And even though my parents never finished school, what they wanted for me and my two sisters was to have an education. My mother was a factory worker. My father was working on the construction site. So funds was minimal. But they worked double shifts to make sure we had an education. I finished as a physiotherapist in 1999, and my first position was head of physiotherapy at a TB hospital. Now, TB at that point in time was ranked, South Africa was ranked one of the top 8 countries where TB was most prevalent. So it was quite a big task for a young physiotherapist. So that is a little bit of my earth, my roots, where I come from. So now let me move over to my wind. For me, wind represents change, chaos, something you cannot control. So for me, my biggest storm in my life was when my mom passed away of cancer. I was literally 3 weeks into my first permanent position, and it was almost as if she waited for me to be settled before she passed on. And I remember holding her hand as she passed on, and I knew then that my life would change completely because she was my rock. But I also knew that what she had taught me and what she had instilled in me had made me strong and prepared me for life. So now let me move over to my fire. There's 3 particular fires in my life. 3 things that, as that fire in my belly that makes me want to do things that make me believe in myself. My first thing is physiotherapy. I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about patients. And when I started my first position at Metro TB Hospital Center, there was absolutely nothing. It was literally a little room with rusted equipment and 2 sandbags as weights. There was no money from government. No matter how much I tried and I motivated, there was no money. So what I did was I started reaching out to local businesses, NGOs, and before you knew it, I had a gym fully functional. I had equipment donated from Germany. My gym was fully equipped with the best equipment. My patients were exercising, they were enjoying themselves, they weren't absconding or running away from the hospital, they were taking their treatment, they were getting stronger, and not only did the patients benefit from it, but also the staff, because the staff now also wanted to train. And I helped several staff members who were actually obese to actually gain or achieve a healthy weight. So I actually left at Brooklyn Chest Hospital a few months ago, but the systems I put in place are self-sustainable, and it's something that I'm very, very proud of. My second fire is fitness, bodybuilding as well. My journey actually started when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And I tried everything to conceive, and nothing helped. I went into a very, very deep depression. And after months and months of staying indoors, my husband told me, no, 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 you need to do something about yourself. And I joined a program. Within 12 weeks, I dropped 13.3% body fat. Then I started entering competitions because now I got a little bit more confidence. I had my body back. I was feeling fantastic. And then within 1 year of my first competition, I became South African champion, and I represented South Africa on the World Championships. Thank you. And then my last fire, well, not my last, but my third most important, is motorsport. I'm also a professional motorsport athlete. So I fell in love with motorsport, especially drifting. So for those of you who don't know what drifting is, if you've watched Fast and Furious, the movie, it's when you take your car sideways at an angle at high speed. So basically, I got myself a trainer. I learned from Team Orange from Japan. They came down to South Africa, and my skill level went up very quickly because I was very determined. I also got lessons from the #1 drifter in South Africa. I flew to Kimberley multiple times, and I started doing exhibition drifting at big stadiums. I then started entering competitions. My very first competition was in 2016. I was the only female amongst 35 male counterparts, and I placed 14th. So for me, that was a big thing. I have now also branched into stunt driving for movies and adverts. My latest one was Bulletproof 2 from Universal Studios, which was filmed in Cape Town. A section of it was filmed in South Africa, Cape Town. That was a few months ago. So that is also something I'm very, very proud of, because previously women, in stunts, you hardly heard of women in stunts doing stunt driving. Mostly they used males to put on wigs to do the stunts, but now we can do it ourselves. And I've also branched into assisting a youth program with mentoring and coaching young people to also do motorsport. And I'm very proud of my girls. I coach 6 girls. They've done competitions, they've done exhibitions, and it's not just about motorsport. It's about teaching them teamwork, it's perseverance, patience, sacrifice, to help prepare the leaders of the future. So thank you very much for your time and listening.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here, and to my wonderful panel members as well, who I share a sport with. My name is Farah Ismail, and I'll give you what society tells us, which are our labels. I'm a Kenyan, I'm Muslim, I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 20 years and have an MBA, and I'm currently taking a course in being a director, so an applied directorship program with the Sadar Group, for whom I'm head of Kenya. And this panel is really about transformation and how you change those labels, and how, as a woman, I've seen it in my life as well. And like a lot of the women here and a lot of you, there's been an incident that was my wind and how I changed. So I left my family, my career in Toronto after I moved from Kenya, where I was a litigator, to move to be with someone in the US. And I thought I was going to live the American dream. And we had, his and her BMW on our way to having, the white fence. And then he had bipolar. And what I thought was my life on that trajectory came crushing down, and we separated. And I had to leave the US as well, and I felt the universe changing. When we talk about earth, wind, fire, it's whether it's in astrology or whether it's energy, I see it as energy. For me, the interpretation is energy, and my energy then was shifting out. And I think it actually pushed me into a whole new version 2, which is what I call myself. We all might have had version 1, and I'm actually living a really good version 2. So I think I'm a product of what happened. And I actually, after probably 18 years, moved back to Kenya. And I moved to Kenya to work as head of legal for a company that was running schools in the slums. I felt I now could make an impact. That's my earth. I wanted to make an impact. And moving back to Kenya was my chance to do that. And I think in my life, I've seen myself transform. So I went from a litigator to an in-house lawyer. And my current role is another transformation in my life. I'm now head of legal for head of Kenya for a group that's in the board performance space. And that actually took a lot for me to actually get out of my safe space as a lawyer and really not call myself a lawyer anymore. That is actually a shift in the label that I had for myself. And I actually catch myself saying, I'm still a lawyer. I am from my training, but I now am a head of Kenya in a business development role. So I think overcoming all of that is, astrologically, I'm a Taurus, and that's the earth sign. And I think for me in my life, after my divorce, I had to see, how do I get myself grounded? Earth for me is about grounding, about the environment, about sustainability of yourself and of the environment and the communities around you. And I think my earth was drawing me towards, first, I need to be able to sustain myself and survive the situation I had gone through. And that was about reinventing myself. And I found moving to Kenya, trying to make impact in an area that was passionate to me, was how I was going to do that. And doing something I loved was going to enable me to sustain myself. So that was part of my evolution. I think I've also evolved, and many times in the fire in my life is I'm very driven, I'm very challenged, I'm persistent, I'm stubborn, I guess, as a Taurus, and I have determination. And in a lot of the things I do, that drives me to do much better and try and excel and always be in a continuous improvement mode. And I found that through all my roles. And I found that in my non-work life. So I've run 5 marathons. And when I got to Kenya, that was the big thing. There's the Lewa Marathon, which is a huge run. And I just wanted to do that. And then all of a sudden, I had come across bodybuilding. So like my fellow panel members, there's something about bodybuilding which it gives you that confidence, that strength. For me, it was about, I'd achieved the intellectual side. It was now about the body. I needed to achieve that. I needed to work on it. And it gave me peace, like you heard this morning. Iris walks up and down. I mean, for me, it's a way that I have a very stressful job. It allowed me to really work on that side and to balance my mental strain with physical strain. And I got into bodybuilding quite by accident. I went to a show in the US, and when I went to this show, I saw these women on stage, and it kind of wasn't what I'd always heard about Arnold, but I'd actually never seen women on stage, and I was just taken back by the confidence, the strength, the poise, and what was presented. And I wanted to emulate that, and hence my love for bodybuilding. So I started bodybuilding in 2014. And my fire drove me. There were no coaches in Kenya, like in India, where it's a growing sport. I got there and I'm like, okay, this would have been easier to do when I lived in the States. And there were no athletes who I could talk to in Kenya that had gone international. So I actually had to go back to the US and find a coach. The thing about fire is you'll do what you need to do. It'll push you. So I went to the States. I stayed for a weekend with a coach. He's a very famous coach. And he taught me, okay, this is what you need to do. This is how you work your body parts. And 7 weeks later, I did my first show in 2014. At the time, there were like 3 women on stage. So you have to understand, Kenya's like India, and you're breaking big stereotypes by being on stage in a bikini, but how else do we show our body? I mean, I don't think you can tell we're bikini athletes really, but the bikini is a way to be on stage so you can actually see your body. So in Kenya, there was the whole thing where the local women did not want to be on stage in a bikini. And when they first started competing, it was kind of like shorts and like a tank top kind of thing. And that was in 2014. We've come a long way. There's been some revolutions in Kenya around this whole issue. A couple of years ago, there was a my dress, my choice kind of revolution in Kenya where women were getting beaten in local transit and transport areas for dressing scantily, as would be called. But it's their choice on how they want to dress. This whole revolution then caused a lot of like political commentary around the issue. And I think what I'm really happy to say is it has transformed. And today on the stage in Kenya, when I go to a local show, there's 25 plus women on stage and they're in bikinis. So we've come a long way in 2020, which is great. And so I'd say, I'd like to say that, you know, I'm a pioneer in the field in Kenya. I've won Miss Kenya 3 times. I'm local champion. I've competed internationally, and thank you. And I have competed in South Africa, where actually I've met these lovely ladies at the same event. So we're here together coming from the Arnold Classic. And competed in Dubai. I won in Dubai. I was here in 2018 in India, where I competed in the Amateur Olympia. And my last competition was last September in Las Vegas, where I came top 10 at the Amateur Olympia in Las Vegas. I've tried each time to take the fire to move me. And so as I think about it, I've seen elements in my life of fire, the grounding of the earth, and the wind has really been the change, the transformation, the evolution, and the labels that I talked about in the beginning, they're changing. I used to be a lawyer, now I'm a business development person. I used to be a wife, I'm no longer a wife. I'm still Muslim, so that hasn't changed. And you know, I used to be a marathon runner, and now I'm a bodybuilder, and that's kind of a label. So I think the message I want to give you is there might be things you're seeing out there, and you may think, I can't be that way, or I'm a label, or I can't do this because I'm a Muslim, or I think you could just go for it and use that wind, that motivation, the fire, and ground yourself and get going towards that. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. We are really short of time, and there is so much to say, but I will really have to end very quickly, but because there are so many bodybuilders here, I would just like to say something about bodybuilding as a field, especially for women. Bodybuilding may look very mechanical, but it is an all-encompassing field which encompasses the subjects like anatomy, physiology, psychology, kinesiology, spirituality, because the kind of focus you need to have. And there is no scope for a lie. You got to take off your clothes and go on stage and be judged by thousands of people and compete against champions. I did that with 70 women in Barcelona in Arnold Classic. I know what it is. There is just no scope for years and years together, especially if you're not taking a shortcut. So the bikini, as it may sound, that people relate it to vulgarity, especially in India, and they say things. But I must say that is the most sacred dress, and it is the height of sanctity, because there is just no scope for cheating at all. This is my tribute to you, and thank you so much. About women, a whole generation has made an endeavor to empower women, but very few people have had the courage to teach men how to live with these empowered women. And it is for the happiness and liberation of men too, that once they start understanding their mothers, sisters, wives, and daughters, and the wives, and the women themselves also start loving their husbands and fathers and sons like I do, I'm sure that there will be a more balanced society and much more harmony in this world. Thank you so much, everyone.